Welcome to CNS Viewpoint. In this first episode of CNS Viewpoint, let me discuss our views on the recently launched National Scrappage Policy for vehicles by the Prime Minister of India and the Government of India. So, friends, this was launched few days before in the lead up to the 75th Independence Day of India, and as we know that the intent, what Prime Minister and the Government of India offer communiques which have been published in social media on official Prime Minister's Twitter account as well as in the news, state that the objective is to ensure that we opt for environment friendly options, we opt for promoting the industry, and as for the claims, it will probably give a boost of 10,000 crores, which is Indian rupees 100 billion to the industry if the national scrappage policy takes its full potential. So, see, our viewpoint is that it is not, if we have to take care of the environment and come up with environment sustainable solutions, sustainable transport solutions, sustainable public transport solutions, which are ecologically sustainable and which are socially just, and this is the only way possible to save the planet and to save you and me, because our individual welfare is very deeply connected to each other, and the COVID pandemic has taught us how even if one is affected, then how the whole world can be affected. And the one virus traveled from Wuhan, and you know that now it has reached every single continent, including Antarctica. So, coming back to this, so we need socially just and ecologically sustainable solutions. So the main question is this. Main question is not about how important or not important is scrappage policy. The main question is there cannot be any more delay in coming up with solutions that are socially just and ecologically sustainable. It is not about sustaining industry at whatever cost. It is not about $100 billion or more or less. It is about what is good for you and me and our planet, because that is deeply connected to our own sustenance and survival. It is not possible for each one of us to own a car. It is not possible for each one of us to own a motor vehicle, whether it is a two-wheeler or a four-wheeler. And so the only possible, sensible and possible option for public transport is that it becomes safe, accessible, within reach for each one of us, affordable for each one of us, and taking care of special needs of all different kinds of communities and diversities that are so much evident in our communities, in our societies. So whether it is gender, if you look at different genders, if you look at different people who live with disabilities, if you look at senior citizens, and as population aging is a real reality in probably every nation of the country of the world, we need to make sure that all our services and public services are extremely sensitive to unique needs of senior citizens. So, and children, for instance, and children need to go to school, and if they're not going to school, then it raises even more serious questions, but we can discuss that in another episode of Viewpoint. So we need solutions that work for everyone, and it can't be one solution. So, but one thing is very clear, that the path towards socially just and ecologically sustainable public transport is public transport, not private ownership of a vehicle. Actually, if public transport is good, friends, then the whole notion, the whole idea of private ownership of vehicles becomes flawed. it will fail. If the public transport is so good that it meets all my needs, then why do I have to spend our savings or take bank loans and get a private vehicle or own a private vehicle and deal with its maintenance and other issues. So we have to come up with public transport, and that is the only possible way. So if we are at all serious about addressing the climate emergency, which is looming very very menacingly over the future of each one of us, including our planet, since a very long time. But the climate crisis has only deepened, and as is very evident of the early warnings which were issued by the UN and other authorities early this month in August 2021. So also we need to look at this, that the latest census in India, the population census, was done in 2011, and according to that, only less than 3%, I think it is 2.7% of people use cars for commuting purposes. So my question is, why roads, infrastructure, road policy, road safety, everything has to be designed keeping in mind the needs of people who use car? What about other 97% people and more than 97% people? And what about if a road is safe for a child who is playing on the road or is going to the school, then the road is safe for everyone. So it is not just about that you and I or the people who are using vehicles, whether it is motor or non-motorized vehicles, but even others who walk on the road or who use road for other purposes. Even that, for example, vendors on the road in India is very common. Homeless people are a reality. We can't put them on a blind spot. We need to make sure roads and road space is safe for each one of us. There are health issues also. For example, the non-communicable diseases more than 70% of deaths are attributed to non-communicable diseases, and significant number of these are very preventable. If we look at the risk factors of non-communicable diseases such as heart disease, stroke, cancers, diabetes, range of chronic respiratory diseases and other NCDs, you will see that lot of risk factors are essentially modifiable or entirely preventable. For example, tobacco use, alcohol use, and sedentary lifestyles, not having enough physical activity and exercise, and other bad diet, for example. And a lot of these could be averted if we use cycle, or if we can use cycling, or opt for other options for daily commuting, which are possible in our own realities and in our own contexts, social context, cultural context, economic context, and other what's feasible. But we need to find these options. And who has made these roads unsafe for cycling, or unsafe for walking, or unsafe for children to go to schools, for example? It is the fast moving cars or other motor vehicles. And the irony is that the government of India, along with all the governments in the world, endorsed the Stockholm Declaration in February 2020, which clearly states that the governments have promised to reduce the maximum speed to 30 km per hour. Because if someone gets hit at 30 km per hour, the chances of dying are about 10%. But if the speed is higher, like 40 or 50, the chances of dying are about 90%. Sorry. So, since 2004, there have been several campaigns in different countries, especially UK and other nations, where this has been enforced, and people have been advocating for the enforcement of 30 km per hour maximum speed. And the results show that there is a significant decline in road traffic accidents and deaths. So, even in my personal experience, like I feel safest in the busiest of roads of old city of Lucknow or Chiang Mai in northern Thailand. It is because cycle is of course a normal cycle will not be able to go at a very fast pace, but at the same time other vehicles are also, the speed is so regulated in that particular, in those settings. But if you look at highways or expressways, the where the motor vehicles drive past at a very high speed, you and I know that if I cycle, and I have been using cycle since 2014. So if I get hit, then you know that the chances of morbidity and mortality at in such a in on expressways for me will be very 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 high because of the speed at which these accidents usually happen. So so if we have to make our roads safer for everyone, for the vendor, for the person who walks on the road, who cycles or or who uses other forms of transport, or and also if we have to make roads safer for people who need more attention, and they should come first, their attention, they should get first of attention. For example, women and girls, for example, people with disabilities, for example, senior citizens. I think we really need to make sure that that our roads become safer for each one of them in their own realities and context, and also if we can make roads safer for the last person in the queue, as it is said, in a manner of speaking, then the roads will become safer for even those who are using motor vehicles and cars. And so if the chance of me dying in a road traffic accident is very low in a road where no one can drive more than 20 or 30 kilometer per hour, is low. If it is low for a cyclist, then it is also low for a person who is on a on a car or a motorcycle, or for a pedestrian. So it is low for everyone. So we have to make roads safer, road space safer for each one of us. In terms of environment sustainability, the solution is not, is surely not, is most certainly it is not enforcing people to dispose of their old vehicles and buy new vehicles. This is the worst policy which a government can come up with. It is only going to benefit the industry. Rather, government's main focus area should be to make public transport so so good that there is no need for any one of us to own private vehicles. So unless we make owning private vehicles unnecessary or redundant, and this is only possible when we have a good public transport, and that is the only way which will be the most sustainable, in not only in terms of transport but also in terms of, it is one of the parts, could be the part solution to the climate issue. Climate issue is a much serious emergency which is looming all over us, and it needs a much more comprehensive and urgent and response from each one of us, but especially from the governments, who have to not only respond to the climate crisis but also make the industry, the polluting industries, pay. But and that includes car industries and motor industries that have misled us and misled governments, and in manipulating road policies to favor car corporations and other motor vehicle industry corporations. We will talk about this at some other session of such interaction. I have a lot to say how, in my own experience, I have seen how car industries or vehicle industries have influenced policies that shape road infrastructure, or should I say car-friendly road infrastructure, and at what cost? At the cost of we the citizens, and at the cost of our planet. So, with these words, let us hope that uh, we have stronger public transport, we and which is good enough, which is so good that no one needs to buy a private vehicle, no one needs to maintain any kind of private vehicle, because it will be just not necessary and such a waste of time, energy and resource. So we need strong, good public transport that will probably also help us in very tiny little way respond to the climate crisis, and as well as, of course, boost the economy in terms of, Prime Minister calls it a circular economy. So circular is not only circular between those industrialists, it is circular also means engaging, each and every citizen. So the money which is in your pocket and my pocket should not go to car industry and motor vehicle industry. We must make governments accountable and deliver on these promises of strong public transport, and of course force these governments to hold industries accountable, make them pay for the damage which they have caused, not only to us as citizens but also to our planet. And in terms of scrappage policy, friends, I think if at all we need a scrappage policy, we need a scrappage policy to undo all the kind of cars and vehicles which will become unnecessary, and they will only become unnecessary when when we uh, when we are able to have a strong public transport, that people themselves find their private vehicles of no use, whether it is new or old or fit or unfit. They are just not necessary to own it. It is just like, friends, no one needs to own an oxygen cylinder. You and I don't need to own an oxygen cylinder if there is a strong, good government public hospital close by. You and I don't need to have oxygen concentrators if there is good health security. Likewise, if there is good public transport, there will be no need for you and me to own motor vehicles. So let's hope sanity prevails, and we'll meet you soon, very soon, in the next episode of CNS Viewpoint. Bye till then.